You're listening to the Agent and the Fan podcast with sports agent Chris Leible and fan Lou Columna.
Welcome, everybody, to the Agent and the Fan podcast. I'm Chris Leible. I'm the agent. I'm here with my man, Lou Columna. He's the fan. What's up, Lou?
Not much, man. Just back in the grind, man, getting ready for the dog days of August.
Well, we're already in the dog days of August. We're coming to the end of them.
Exactly.
I know we haven't had a podcast in a while, but, let's not go back in time, Lou.
Yes.
So, Lou, we got a lot to talk about today. We have to talk about baseball. We have to get into kind of where we are in the game and what's going on out there on the field in Major League Baseball. I think for me, it seems like you're starting to see kind of some more clarity when it comes to the pennant races. It seems like the cream is rising to the top as we come to the final month of the season, of the regular season. And obviously anything can happen. It's baseball. And I'm sure some crazy things are going to happen. But I think we're also seeing some interesting things. So let's get into that, I think, to start with.
No, I think you're right. Listen, I have to give you credit. The Houston Astros, I had them for dead. They've risen. They've surpassed the Mariners. Listen, the one thing about this year that I will tell you is that there's no super team. So every team has issues. It's all about peaking at the right moment and about having all your guys, right? All these guys that are in the injured list and are coming back and all that stuff. But I think really that the Astros are really kind of coming together, and then you're seeing the team rise to the top, right? There've been some guys, I put the Red Sox and the Mets in the same category, right? Where they didn't think much, they're just kind of laying in the weeds. But guess what? They're both alive in September and they both got a chance.
Here's the thing. I've said this privately, say it here on the show. The thing about teams like the Mets, Red Sox, there's other teams like them. As long as they don't go into a pronounced losing streak, they'll stay in there where they have the fighting chance, and anything can happen. Now, I think in the Mets case, it's been very interesting. So the Braves, who have had everything and anything happen to them, they go wrong. They're still there and they're playing really well. So they're a very interesting team and they're hanging on and they're kind of keeping the Mets at arm's length as far as that final wild card spot. And the Mets have had a tough schedule recently with 2 long West Coast trips. And really, I believe they only had like 8 or 9 games at home the whole month of August. So the Mets are going through it, but the Mets are also hanging in there. They've lost some tough games, but they're playing well enough that they're staying in the race. So they're not losing ground to anybody behind them. And they're keeping, they're within a fighting distance of the Braves and even the Padres. Now the Mets had a tough loss to the Padres the other day, which was a killer. But to go into San Diego and split with the team that's been playing great was a good job for them to do that. Obviously it should have been better because they had a late lead that they blew at the end.
Those things are going to happen, right?
They're going to happen, but I think for a team like the Mets, Red Sox are another one. As long as they don't go on a real bad losing streak, I think they'll be there at the end. Will they be able to overcome the teams in front of them? Maybe, but it'll be a dogfight to be able to do it.
Yeah, and I think also what we're not discussing as well is those teams behind the Red Sox and the Mets, because those teams have kind of floated. They've given those chances to those other teams behind them to kind of creep up where before they had a little bit of a distance. So that'll be interesting as well. And listen, that's what baseball ultimately wants, right? They want as many teams in it at the end of September, beginning of October, to be in it and cause some chaos, if you will. So that's happening. And I think more so than any other year that I can remember, there's no super team. Every team has flaws. I mean, the Orioles won 100 games last year, and they were the darlings. They've struggled. You know that
the Orioles have struggled.
100 games.
The Orioles have struggled of late. Now, does that mean better things are coming? I kind of think it does. I just think they've had a rough stretch.
I mean, listen, they're a good team. They're a good
team, and I think they'll be there at the end. And I believe that they're a playoff team. But again, anything could happen. And the interesting, I think, if you look at the standings now, I think the interesting thing is that for all you have these all these superpowers with between the Yankees and the Dodgers, and obviously the Phillies have had a great stretch the last few years. The team with the biggest lead as we speak is the Milwaukee Brewers. So how about that?
Exactly.
So it's baseball. Anything can happen, and it usually does. And I think it makes it to be fun and exciting. And I think when you look at the Braves, as we were saying, Alex Anthopoulos, he's done a great job. He always does a good job. He's always on that waiver wire making key acquisitions. He sometimes doesn't keep them very long, but he's always pulling guys. He lost Austin Riley. Gio Urshela signed almost immediately. It worked out timing wise that he was available to him, and I think that was a great pickup. And I'm a huge Riley fan. Gio is my former client and a great guy, and I think a terrific ball player too, and a good pick. That's a good pickup for them at this stage of where the season is, to pick up a good veteran glove and bat like him. Him well as a Yankee. So, but I think Alex is always on top of things, and has done a great job keeping that organization at where they are, and at or towards the top of the league. For sure.
I mean, listen, and we can go back to the winter when they got Chris Sale, right? Who thought Chris Sale was going to be, Chris Sale from 7-8 years ago? I didn't think so. I don't think he thought himself.
I mean, listen, I thought he had a chance to come back, and I'm happy for the guy, because obviously he's a super talent. He's a lot of fun to watch, and when you look at who are the contributors to the Braves, you realize what a good organization they do have, and how they always find people to step up, even in light of losing such superstar players. So
scouting.
Yeah, much props to the Braves organization and Alex for all the great work he's done, and keeping that team in this race, and just obviously having them where they've been for the last bunch of years since he's been there.
No, without a doubt. I mean, the Braves have done a phenomenal job. The Brewers, my God, the Brewers have done a great job. Jackson Chourio,
the Brewers have some really, really good young players.
And that's even losing Chris Yelich.
But these young guys, just, to me, they're just good baseball players. Obviously Chourio's, has a chance to be a superstar in the game. But, I mean, there are some good young baseball players who are contributing to that team. And, you could kind of see that watching them end the last year, early this year, it's pretty impressive. And the fact that they're, I know the division might not be the strongest, but
you play where you are.
But they have done a great job. So, obviously, David Stearns is no longer there, but they've done a really, very impressive job. On the same note, I think, and as you said, I mean, with the Astros kind of pulling away from the Mariners a little bit, but obviously the Mariners are there and knocking on the door. But I think the interesting race is the Indians. I'm sorry, oops, my bad. The Guardians and the Royals, and the Twins, and the Twins are right there too.
The Twins are right there too. But I think the Royals really are. I mean, they're for real. The
Royals are a great organization. But the Guardians are having a terrific year, and so all those teams are right in there. And I think when you're looking at that race, that's hot and heavy. And, you're talking about, 3 playoff teams as we speak anyway, that, but there are some battles there. So, but as we said, I think some of the stuff is clarifying a little bit now, but Septembers are always fun and
It's
interesting. So it'll be interesting to see how things play out. But yeah, I mean, it's been a great season, and I think it's setting itself up for an exciting September, and then, who knows what's going to happen once October rolls around, as always, and that's what makes baseball so fun.
I agree. It's going to be fun. Moving along to a topic I think you have a lot to say in, and that is the stuff that's going on between Jordan Montgomery and Blake Snell with regards to Scott Boras. I mean, I find it fascinating. I would love to hear your take on it and what your thoughts on it in terms of where do you think this lies?
So obviously what you're talking about is there's been some comments made. Obviously we covered this a lot during the off season, in that there were a bunch of free agents that were out there for a long time and available to the end. I think the big giant contracts that maybe some predicted or were expecting or hoping for didn't come through. Obviously, Montgomery and Snell were 2 of the top pitchers on the market, both Scott Boras clients. Obviously, Scott Boras, I've said it here plenty of times, is the preeminent figure as an agent in the business, and has been since the beginning, pretty much. What he's done is groundbreaking, and he's at the top of the profession. I think it's interesting that Jordan Montgomery has left Scott Boras. He was disappointed, obviously, that he didn't get the deal he was hoping for, and he's been outspoken as to comment and say that that he wasn't happy with the way it went down. Blake Snell was approached and asked about it, and obviously Blake is having a terrific year, but maybe didn't get the deal that some were predicting. But Blake has been extremely complimentary of Scott and somewhat critical of Montgomery's comments, not Montgomery himself, but so it's very interesting how this has played itself out. But Snell has kind of said the opposite and really defended his agent and said, and this is something we talked about, that the market wasn't there and there's only so much you can do as an agent. And as an agent, I first of all appreciate Snell's comments, because it's very easy for somebody to say, to be critical of an agent and the job they're doing. But unless you're there, and I've always said this in this forum here, is that unless you're in the middle of it, you don't know all the variables and all the things that are going on. And the fact, as an agent, the best you're going to do is, and if the deal isn't there, it's, you can't make it. My dad used to say, you can't take blood out of a stone. And if it's not there, it's not there. And that was Snell's view of what happened to his free agency this past offseason. Obviously, Montgomery didn't have the same take. And I think as an agent, what you have to do is you have to just keep your clients informed as what you're doing and what's going on and what your discussions are and where things stand. And then you hope you're able to get what the client and yourself are expecting.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I will say this. I don't think that Scott Boras is above criticism, right? He's just like you and I. He's misread the market other times. I don't think that's a big deal. The fact that he did not get what Jordan wanted, maybe that was on him. It could have been on Scott. And guess what? So what? It happens, right? Scott doesn't get every single deal he wants. Now, when it comes to Snell, that's his guy. He's not going to bash Scott. That's his guy, and he's having a good season. My take would be, if he was having the same season as Jordan was, would he be singing the same tune? That's all I'm saying. I think he knows. He's like, listen, I've had a great year. It was bumpy at the beginning, but I'm in line for a nice contract. What that'll be, who knows? We'll find out, come, the winter meetings probably. But listen, I don't have a problem with what Montgomery said. Is he right? Is he wrong? Who knows? Again, I don't think that Scott Boras is above criticism and can't be criticized, and he's always right. He may have been wrong. Maybe he wasn't.
There's no question. Again, it's an interesting,
but it's interesting. You're right.
Topic of discussion. I think that you could see it from both ends. I think you're right. I think the key component to this is that one of the two guys is having a terrific year. Maybe for a two-time Cy Young Award winner, maybe his best year, and then the other is not having a good year. So again, that could come into play. I mean, I think I appreciate Snell defending his agent, and I think Snell wasn't always with him. I think Snell joined him in the recently, not maybe not in the last year or two, but a few years back he joined them. I think that Montgomery obviously had a terrific season last year and had a great postseason and
deserved a good contract.
Yeah, but sometimes they're not there. And I think we talked about this in the offseason. These free agents, they all had, while they were all talented players, they all did have their flaws as well. So it wasn't like there was the one like, oh, here's Bryce Harper, here, the super mega star guy that was floating around out there. These are all guys, Snell has kind of squashed some of the, I think, some of the questions people had about him with, going deep into games this year and doing some of the impressive things he's done. I think that, some of the other guys that we thought might be in line for big contracts didn't get them, but maybe they're showing why they didn't get them, exactly. Also. 100%. So 100%. It's a tricky situation. Like I said, I appreciate Snell for sticking by his guy and understanding it, because it's not, not everybody does. And I think for players, and I'm going to say this, is that it's very easy to point the finger at somebody else and not look in the mirror. I think a lot of players do that. I think probably the majority of them do that. And I think there's a lot of agents that are very good at what they do who don't deserve criticism. But as you said, everybody can be criticized, and anybody's open to criticism, and that's the way it is. So be it.
Yep. I agree. So we'll see how that plays out in the winter meetings and this off season. Moving along to the American League MVP race. It's for me, it's a slam dunk, but there's a shortstop in Kansas City who is saying, wait a minute, look at my numbers, look what I'm doing. And rightfully so, although I still think Judge will win it. But Bobby Witt Jr. has been put into the conversation that, if you recall, not even a month ago, it was, Gunnar Henderson, it was Juan Soto, and all of a sudden, Bobby Witt Jr. has ascended to really show that he was worth the money he was given in the offseason, and that he is truly a legit superstar.
Well, listen, when you're not even out of August yet, and the guy has 51 homers, it's going to be hard to not just pin the award on the guy. But 100%, Bobby Witt is doing some things that are just off the charts. He's such a terrific player. I think a lot of people got a chance to see him between the All-Star and the Home Run Derby, and he's just, and the fact that he's such an all-around talent, which to me is so much more appealing than anything else, in that he runs, he's the good defender. The guy is he's
power,
just a superstar.
average.
Yeah, he's just a superstar. He just seems like a good kid. Obviously, I remember his dad. I'm sure you do too.
Yep.
With some of the, Texas Rangers teams with, my best friend Andy might be watching now. And Andy was a huge fan of those teams with Oddibe McDowell and Ruben Sierra and Juan Gonzalez and the whole crew.
Julio Franco.
Julio Frank. I mean, such a terrific, some really good teams that back then that didn't. What's that? Pudge? Yeah, we're not even naming it. Yeah. And Bobby Witt, obviously senior, was a hard throwing young right-hander on those teams. But I think listen, Bobby Witt, this kid is having a terrific year. Like you said, there's some terrific young shortstops in the game. I think a lot of the top shortstops got huge contracts. A lot of them have, in a lot of people's minds, underperformed. I think Witt, I would put my money on him to live up to whatever it is. Obviously, you got guys like Seager and some guys who have done really well. And then, if you look at, obviously, Francisco Lindor has taken what was a real rough start and turned it into where people are chanting MVP for him now. Because he's taken his game to a new level and as an all-around player. So it's an interesting time for that. And it's funny because I saw somebody posted the other day and asked, who's the best shortstop of all time? And I felt it was a very interesting question. My first thought, and I just got back from the Hall of Fame in Cooperstown. My son was playing in a tournament up there a couple of weeks back and had a chance to go there. Now, I went there for like a couple hours because the kids can only take it for so long. I had my team with me. But I could literally sit in the Hall of Fame for probably 3 straight days and just talk about old players and shoot the breeze and talk about things and tell stories and tell my kids things. I don't know if they want to hear them all, but I could tell them all day. And I met actually an older couple when I was there, which had a crazy story that I'll probably tell about another time. But my thought was that the greatest shortstop of all time is probably Hannes Wagner, who's an old-time Pirate player. But I think that obviously there've been some greats and looking at the numbers and seeing, obviously, things aside, A-Rod and of course Derek Jeter's had a historic career and done some amazing things, but obviously shortstop is always a marquee position and a huge name, but I don't see any reason to think that Bobby Witt Jr. can't be one of the all-time greats if he can continue to build off of this, keep his nose to the grind and just keep working hard and doing what he's doing and stay healthy, because he's that kind of talent, and I give him a ton of credit. I think it's going to be hard to wrestle the MVP award away from Aaron Judge. God knows how many home runs he's going to finish with. Still don't know why they pitched to him, but the Mets, I thought, had the right idea. But I think that the game is a lot more fun when you have people like Bobby Witt and Aaron Judge playing in it. So I think there are no losers at the end of the day, and I'm excited to see how the season ends as far as that race goes.
No, I agree, man. I think, listen, it's going to be 1-2 in the MVP vote, unless Soto has a monster finish. Who knows? But again, to your point, they're all winners, right? These old guys are going to be great players, are great players. But I think it's fun at least to have that conversation, right? And I think moving forward, Bobby Witt, along with Gunnar Henderson, are really going to kind of carry that torch in the American League, a la, Jeter and Garcia Parra, Jeter, A-Rod, and so it's going to be really fun to see. And listen, we're not even talking, even though he's probably going to be playing second, but, you got Jackson Holliday who bounced back from a really rough start, going back to the minors. And
he's got a lot of proving to do, but obviously a high potential. So we'll see where he goes, but and how that all plays out. But and then you look at some of these other some of these young players, the Jackson Merrills who were shortstops who he's doing a fantastic job. I mean, that kid's just so fun to watch, and a great compliment to that team, that the Padres that we said are playing so well. So that's That's fun and exciting, and as I said, it's going to be a great stretch run, and we're going to be airing our podcast weekly, right, Lou, and
Yes,
covering all the excitement of the end of the season.
It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun, but nothing is fun as the Miami Minute. Chris, take it away.
The Miami Minute. Okay, guys. So listen, this is big stuff. This weekend coming up, the Miami Hurricanes are going to travel to the swamp in Gainesville, Florida. Okay, we call it Canesville because we feel like we own it. Okay, we're playing the Florida Gators. Now, we used to play the Florida Gators every year. That was a staple of the schedule, just like we play Florida State every year. Florida decided not to play us anymore, which was they're scared, and it was a kind of a wimpy move. But we are actually playing them. We're going to go to their place, and we're going to play them on Saturday, this coming Saturday, depending on when you're watching this. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm very excited for this season. I've fell for the fool's gold a few times, maybe more than a few times, maybe 20 times, maybe 20 times. But I really believe this is the year for the Hurricanes. We finally have a quarterback, Cam Ward. Big shout out to Cam. I'm expecting a huge year from number one. I feel like he's a guy who's going to really impress everybody. And the fact that they figured out our coach, Mario Cristobal, who's a former offensive lineman, two-time national champion with the Hurricanes on the offensive line, he knows to build a program, you got to build it through the lines. And what this guy has done to build this offensive line, I can't wait to see them out there on that field. I will be there, and I am looking forward to it like I can't explain to you. Now, by the time some people watch this, they might be like, ha, 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 look what happened. I don't know what's going to happen, but I am excited, and I'm also excited about our defensive line, and I want to give a big shout-out to Hurricane Bane. He is an absolute monster, and he is going to have a huge year. I expect he's going to be our next. So we've had some of the all-time greats on the defensive line, Warren Sapp and
yes,
and Jerome Brown and Russell Maryland, the number one pick in the draft, and Cortez Kennedy, a Hall of Famer. So I think I don't want to put too much pressure on Hurricane Bane, but Hurricane Bane is a guy that might be able to fit that category, and I'm really hoping he will be able to do that. So for the Hurricane Minute, go Canes. Beat those stinking Gators. I'm very excited about it. But, and one last note, Lou, for you, because you're a Jets fan, and we're going to talk about NFL next week. But with the season coming, one thing I'm going to say while we're on the Hurricane Minute and finishing it, it might be a 2-minute or 3-minute right now. But have you seen Leonard Taylor III on the Jets in preseason at all? Yes or no? You don't have to say you've seen him.
I haven't seen him.
Okay, Lou. He was not drafted for some reason. A little inconsistent career. I don't blame him. Lou, I watched him the other day. He was in on 3 sacks on 3 plays in a row the other day. He's been everywhere all preseason. I think he's going to be a monster for the Jets as an undrafted free agent, and I'm very excited. His Twitter handle, his X handle, 56 reasons. He's now number 96. He's now 96. I think he should change it to 96 reasons. Maybe he's waiting to make the team officially, but watch out for Leonard Taylor III on the Jets while we're finishing our minutes. Thank you.
Good day, sir.
Good day, sir. Everybody, thank you for joining the Agent of the Fan podcast. We'll see you again next week. We hopefully have a guest, and we're talking NFL football. Have a good one.
Have a good one, guys.
Thanks for watching.